Hello, and welcome to I guess this would be the cherry on top of the Cowboy Bebop arc for Power Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Taylor, and with me is I guess you are I don't know, you're the vanilla ice cream to the banana split there, so you should be.
So are you the chocolate or the strawberry?
I don't know.
Or do you want to be
Yeah,
top banana?
I'm the nuts.
Do they
Oh,
always
nuts.
have peanuts and stuff on them? By
No.
choice?
I don't think they always do.
Yeah, I don't think typically, but
Now the places that I've frequented, they've had them, but um, yeah,
I've
I'm
seen
really
some pretty
hankering for.
crazy ice cream, options though. So
I would say, yeah, that is. I'd make a habit of wherever I go to a dairy place of getting a banana split at some point. So it's just a
banana's so
tradition.
versatile, hey?
Bananas, good fruit,
Yep.
delicious.
I know somebody who's unfortunately allergic to them.
Oof.
Yeah. As far as I know, the only allergy they have. But unfortunately, bananas are it. I remember working with them at a at a place, and they said, "Oh, if today's not going well, just leave banana on my desk, and I'll consume that, and we'll go from there." In so many words, it was a little bit harsher than that. Had a good laugh over that one.
Gracious. But yeah, on that, how are you doing?
I am hanging in there, and yourself?
I'm doing all right. A bit on the sleepy side. So
You were saying.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a lengthy day at work, but you'll have those. So
Well, speaking
that's
of
all right.
length, this movie's got some length to it.
Yeah, so we're gonna be covering Cowboy Bebop, the movie, or Knocking on Heaven's Door. Um, yeah, this is nearly 2 hours, not quite 2 hours, but it's an hour and 55 minutes. And honestly, I don't know about you, from sounds of it, and I know what little bit we had talked about before. I literally watched this a handful of hours before recording this again.
How was the day before?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I don't know if it's just how my brain is, but it did not feel like 2 hours
Yeah, okay.
to me. So
And
it
did
felt
feel like
kind
2 hours for me.
okay.
So this could be interesting.
Yeah, so I honestly I think we're probably on different sides of this, just from how you were feeling beforehand. If it's still in the same regards, then we may be kind of sitting on opposite ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be.
I guess that'll be all right. So, I guess a little neat, or maybe not neat, but some bits about this. This movie did come out September 1st, 2001 in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Some things gotta happen a couple days later.
Yeah.
And so I remember when that actually, for the sake of the movie, how they were kind of like, I don't know, this might never make it stateside.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. I remember there being some concerns and ideas about that, but I mean, like, why not?
Mm-hmm. I mean, probably just due to the freshness of the situation more than anything.
Right. And it's just, it's like, okay. I mean, the same thing happened with the Cowboy Funk episode and a bunch of other TV shows and whatnot getting kind of shuffled off to the side for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it eventually released stateside a year later, just about. So like on August 11th, I think it was 2002. So
okay.
Um, yeah. Um, did you watch this movie after the series, or did you watch it during it? Did you watch it beforehand?
I had only watched it the first time 2 years ago.
Okay.
So a fair chunk of time after.
Gotcha. And that was this after you had kind of watched the series again or something, or was it
No,
just
so
kind of
I had
random?
watched the series and then just at random, a couple of years ago, I was kind of going through a movie watching phase where I don't remember. Did I ever? Do you remember how many I watched? It was a lot of
It was
movies in a
a
year.
lot.
It was like 120 movies or something over the course of the year. There were stretches there where I was watching, and some nights two, I think even upwards of three movies just overnight, like not even like working full time hours and then just catching a couple movies at night.
Mm.
So this was squished in there somewheres, and it was just I was completely picking movies at random. There was no specific genres, there was no specific styles, just at random picking, some of the quote unquote classic Hollywood movies or smaller budget movies. So this just ended up in the pile.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't exactly remember when I had watched the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I know it was sometime after
Was it in the
watching the
theater?
series. No, I did
Oh,
not see it in theater.
okay.
So I was not. I think it was only a limited theater release or
That's what I
something.
heard.
I want to say that that's what kept me from saying it. Like the closest
Mm.
would have been like Chicago or something ridiculous, or New
Ah,
York. And it's like, yeah, not happening. I'm
right.
not.
Not that much of a diehard.
Well, not even
What kind
die
of
hard.
fan
I
are
mean,
you?
I know if things getting in my way, like
Didn't,
money
yeah,
or that sort of thing.
$1,000 shouldn't keep you from your passion.
Oh boy. I mean, I don't know. For a lot of people, $1,000 still doesn't buy enough passion. But
Yeah,
uh, that's beside the point. We're here for a movie.
yeah.
And so this kind of takes place between episodes 22 and 23.
Yep. I remember when I told you that and you were kind of surprised saying, nah, no way.
Well, because I think most people, when it first came out and everything, were willing to be like, this could take place sometime after Ed's finally joined
Mm-hmm.
and before Ed leaves. So it's just because of the nature of how Bebop presents itself. It's like,
Right.
you could throw it in somewhere in there
It's
and be
not
all right.
abundantly clear that it would be at a specific point.
Right, but they seem to kind of really pinged on it
Mm-hmm.
being at this point, and it's just like, okay.
Right.
It's like it's not a too big of a deal. But Halloween does have a bit of a focus.
Yeah, a bit. Like not as much as I think kind of it's leading on to be.
No, well, that's why I say a bit. I'm not saying
Yeah.
like not a huge chunk. It's just it flavors the more so the back end than anything
Yeah.
else
Yeah.
of the film.
Yep.
So, yeah, I guess we would jump into it. What are some things you like about this movie?
Well, there was certainly a lot of time put into the animation quality here. There's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty big upgrade in a lot of the presentation of that animation,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was abundant all throughout, and it would make sense. I mean, when you're doing an episodic show, and you probably have to kind of rush through to get production on the line and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, I'm assuming there's a lot more time to do that storyboarding and scrutinize bits of animation and try to redraw them and all of that. So yeah, I noticed that pretty clearly in a little bit different shade of the coloring I felt in some of the characters and things like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think what's that, Bones?
Mm-hmm.
The animation studio. I know
Mm-hmm.
Slade. I think Slade's the one that mentioned. Either Slade or B. Clark have mentioned about how Bones helped with this,
Right.
and they are they've done like Wolf's Rain. I think I don't know if they did both Full Metal Alchemist adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did, but I'm not 100% certain. I think they also did like what's that, Raxophone? I think maybe could be wrong. Could be wrong on that one. But they've done a bunch of stuff and pretty quality, pretty good stuff. So yeah, like you said, the movie is, yeah, it looks pretty, and what I also really like about it is it helps heighten the concept of that there's a rhythm to life or a rhythm to living. And you can really see it in a lot of different things going on throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can see it in the show as well, but I think just the heightened quality, you can really see it.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of close-ups of characters and stuff here where just it's very crisp.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we're watching the show, for example, if they kind of have Jet's face, like his the under eye, I don't know what that piece is there, that metallic piece.
Mm-hmm.
Here it's very detailed, right? Like it looks like a lot of time was put into making sure the characters' faces are just really clear, sharp lines. I noticed that with Faye when it kind of zoom in on her face.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the most iconic shots of the movie is when Spike has basically just like cleaned up the convenience store, right? And he twirls the gun around his hand or his finger,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a really cleanly shot and drawn piece of animation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that or I think of what another, or the monorail.
Yeah,
or
the monorail is too.
There's sometimes though, and I don't know if it's just because of it's a stylistic choice and whatnot. There'd be points at which, like the cityscape, where it almost looks like it's a painting in a way, where it has this haze to it that, yeah, I actually really like. I was like, oh, that's pretty neato, especially in contrast with how crisp and clean and clear a lot of the film is. So
yeah, and a good example of that would be as well as in the show when the Bebop is landing in water, and they reuse that same type of shot with the gear kind of hitting the water and how it's splashing up. Whereas here you can see it's been reworked, and you get a lot more detail in just the way it's cutting through the water, the way the water's splashing. So it's just like an example of the time and effort that was put into this that probably wasn't afforded to doing the episodic show.
Right, and I think that's something that I really actually appreciate about this movie that may feel like it drags on for some other people, is that it does take the time to just sort of allow itself to breathe. So it really is an episode stretched out over 4 to 4 to 5 episodes, but yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like, I say that, but I don't mean that in a negative way. So,
well, you could watch this in chunks. You could watch
yes, you could.
in chunks and almost tag it as an episodic show. And I mean, it probably wouldn't cut really cleanly just because there isn't clear breaks necessarily.
I would say the best part would be when, right as either Spike is quote unquote dreaming or as he wakes up after getting shot. That'd probably be the best because that's like an hour or so, a little after an hour into the film. Yeah. And I think that would probably be the best spot that you could cut it.
Yeah, but that only gives you basically like 2 cuts.
Yeah, and.
No, just like, because if you're saying if it were 3 to 4 episodes, there's not really another point that really is like really clear where you could be like, yeah, this is a good stopping point.
Well, I mean, like I said, like
not that you have to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying
you could.
You could But yeah. So, I will throw this out here. I don't know if this would be too much because honestly, we haven't really talked about it for the movie's sake. I really like the soundtrack for the film.
Yeah, I would say this is a highlight for sure.
The opening and ending themes and just all the different music throughout. Like even some of the sillier, the digging country tune. I love
Mm.
that song. It's stupid as it is. I don't know. There's just something about it.
I like Faye cycling through her radio stations.
Gets and lands on that poppy.
Yeah, it's a good kind of
tune.
track for her, sort of introduction to the film.
And then the ending theme. I really like the ending theme a lot. That's a pretty strong tune.
So, were you okay with them going away from taking the series opening and ending themes?
Mm-hmm. Oh
Okay.
yeah. I
wonder if that's a sticking point for some people.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know of anybody who's kind of bummed that they didn't keep it. I mean, there could have been.
Because you could have had an extended version, right, of Tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't feel it would have flowed with the whole vibe of the movie.
Yeah, because both. It's Ask DNA is the opening. I'm blanking on the ending theme.
Yeah, I don't know these names ever.
It's gonna bother me. I'm gonna look it up real quick because that's what I like to do. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, gotta knock a little harder. That's what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So they're both. Let's see here. Like Ask DNA's. I'm trying to think of how long that tune is.
Like in the movie or the actual track?
It's like the actual track.
Oh, I don't know, because the movie's one that's maybe about 2 minutes?
Yeah, because they're both about, I think they're both about 5 minutes. Yeah. So Ask DNA is almost 5, and then Gotta Knock a Little Harder is a little over 5.
Okay.
And I get that the Real Folk Blues is lengthy, but it's also got, for lack of a better way to put it, a little bit of a jam session for.
Well, so does Tank, right? We're just kind of that.
Well, it's more of an instrumental to begin with.
It is, but that latter half.
What I'm
just
more so getting at
goes all wild.
Right. What I mean more than anything is that the opening and ending for this one are a little bit more lyrically heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I'm fine with.
Mm-hmm.
Like the opening is such a. I think it's just kind of almost like they're flexing a little bit and trying to be like, hey, look what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's. I have no issues with that being, or those two being the opening and ending themes for the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they kind of went with a little bit different style there, right? Rather than obviously the beginning of the series openers, and just the way it's presented in a bit more of it's a bit more movie quality to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say Gotta Knock a Little Harder at least kind of leans a little bit more into the vibe of the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I get what you mean. It's a little bit more like I personally I feel like you could this would almost be a good way if like, hey, okay, I get it. You don't want to watch all of Cowboy Bebop. Here's the movie.
Yeah,
you can really get you'll get the vibe of Bebop. Do you like the vibe of it? Then watch the TV show.
Yep. No, there's definitely a bit of that. It's meant to be for those who are familiar with things, but I believe a lot of the times when it comes to the standalone movies, I think one of the first one I ever seen was like there was the Fist of the North Star, like theatrical movie, hour and a half movie or whatever.
That the one that got the slam for having that horrific dubbing or something like that.
Probably. I mean, it was from the 80s though, right? So it's kind
Mm.
of funny when people slam it and it's like, well, you know, these were few and far between to begin with. So
Mm-hmm.
just, you should have just been happy with the fact that we got anything
Mm.
from that time frame. And, obviously trickled and started to snowball into the 90s and everything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
not that I watched it in the 80s. I probably watched it in the early 2000s, but just whatever. But I think it's, like you said, it's to get that sample size. Hey, do you like what you see? There's a full series of however many episodes that you can now go through, or manga that you can go read and kind of get yourself acclimatized to the universe. It's just, they want to present that while also sort of trying to satisfy fans who are already familiar with the product.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely try to do that here.
Mm. Get some Marlboro cigarettes and instant noodle.
Yeah, pull that tab underneath.
Hey, that's a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, we kind of
that
have
is the
stuff like that
future.
now, right? With the hand warmers where you just kind of crack them. Like, we kind of have
Right, right.
similar products now.
We're slowly stepping towards the future.
Yeah, slowly. Or you could play. What did that guy say when he was playing the primitive cell phone games or whatever he says when they I can't remember what he says,
Nothing beats 20th century video
but
games.
Vincent
They're
can't
just
be bothered, right? With pretty much with anything, but it's all trivial.
No, well, yeah, but I will say this: I really like that that mentioning of it because Lee Sampson, that the hacker that's saying that and everything,
Yep.
it immediately gets echoed by Bob when
Mm.
he's talking with Jet and stuff about how the good old days when you could just confront the baddie and
Right.
all this sort of stuff and he's watching the western movie and
Right. Right.
uh, it's like it's not, and what's really great about this because this also helps. I mean, it's you could get it in the TV show as well, but it really paints the picture that the ISSP kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Which is great because he's Jet, it's not like it was when you left. The suits are moving up. Some are just selling out to the syndicates, and some are just there covering their butts, and
Right.
it's just rotten from top to bottom. And
Well, that was the comment too for Spike. So you look, you could be a syndicate. What is it? Something like you could be for the ISSP, or you could be just like a syndicate mole or something like that said to him at one point.
Oh yeah, by the trio there. Yeah,
Right.
they say something,
Right.
but there isn't a difference between the two.
Right. They're both just
Yeah,
basically dirty and out for themselves, kind of thing.
right. And then Jet makes the remark to Bob. He's like, "Oh, then it hasn't changed at all."
Yeah.
So he's just yeah, kind of fed up with it. That's
Mm-hmm.
why he chose to kind of live outside the norms.
Right. And I know that's not your favorite thing to kind of get nods, because when we were talking about thinking way back when, and we did No Time to Die, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like callbacks to stuff, right? But this movie does tie in a few things of that nature, right? You get Spike with the, I don't know, adjustable zoom in goggles. I don't know what else to call them.
Oh yeah, those glasses.
Bob coming back, the old guys coming back,
Mm-hmm.
the creepy Disney-esque character thingies in the arcade, right? From
Spaceland.
yeah, from was that not LeFou?
Yeah, Pierre LaFou.
Pierre LeFou. So yeah, like there's definitely a few sort of nod and winks to fans that would already have been familiarized with previous content.
Mm.
It's probably
Yeah,
all
I
there's.
guess.
They don't
I
overdo
guess.
it.
Well, there's a lot of not always subtle. I mean, the Bob one's obviously right there, front.
Sure,
but I I guess because it's being wedged into that way, where a lot of times with Bond, it feels like just trying to rest on the laurels a bit too much,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the film.
Depending, yeah.
Yeah. That's where it starts to kind of draw my ire, where it's like, come on now. Come on! I get it.
Yeah.
It's the 75th anniversary, you know.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes they are nice nods, right? It can really depend. Sometimes they are a little too overboard. I think a good example was, say, Jinx coming out of the water and saying, "Oh, this has, what was that, the 40th anniversary at that point?"
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to recreate, the Honey Rider scene essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then the very next Bond movie, it's Bond doing the Honey Rider coming out of the beach thing. So,
Well, exactly, yeah, because it's like so
sometimes
much
it's
time
stuff
has
like that.
passed.
Yeah, it's kind of that's definitely taking it a step probably too far.
Right. And I think because it is just this one-off, there isn't more. There's outside of that which has quietly gone up, to the farm up north.
Yeah.
Like outside of that live action bit, there really hasn't been. Not really hasn't. There hasn't been this. Oh, Here's more Bebop.
Yeah.
Even though there has been this push for it, but in the same hand, it's like there is no need for it.
No. And a lot of stuff ends up falling on its face, right? When it's do a sequel to something and it's now been 20 years or whatever. It's like, the product ends up usually feeling pretty half baked, right? And not on the fault of the people trying to do it. It just can't recapture what once was.
I mean, that's a hard thing
for sure
to do.
The expectations are just far too high.
Expectations, but also just different environment, different mindsets, different. It's just that is
different
not
competing products that have potentially taken over.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but it's Cowboy Bebop's greatest hits. We also get a little bit of Big Shot.
Yes, we do.
Which I absolutely love because it's like, oh, it's a special episode. It's going to be 20 minutes longer, and we know nothing. We don't know anything, but it's a special episode, and like, if this doesn't tell you, if this just doesn't.
Well, look, the placement of this, basically letting us know that, Big Shot's toasted by, what is it, episode 24? Shuts down?
Right.
So it makes sense.
Well, but it's also to me, I almost wonder if it's a swipe at television entertainment where it's all this, oh, there's a shtick, but there is nothing beyond what the shtick is. So, good luck.
Avert thy eyes. But you still get Punch and Judy, which is kind of fun. Again, I got another little tiny nod that if you were seeing this, I assume if you're seeing this in the theater, very unlikely that people, since it was such limited release, were not there full well knowing what Cowboy Bebop was. But to see maybe on DVD or television later, might be kind of confused what's going on there.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's at least maybe in nowadays because there really isn't much in the way of telethons.
Not the same way, no. No, it's a lot more, through influencers and things like that now, right? So very different how that looks.
For posterity's sake, telethon is sort of what streamers do
when they ask
nowadays,
for money.
But way back in the day.
Join my Patreon. It's just kind of similar. Kind of.
You had to call in.
Not quite the same, but yeah. They were much worse, in the 70s, all those big ones and stuff that they have. And we're going to get a performance from so-and-so, and these people never looked like they wanted to be there. And
right.
And you'd see, about 40 people sitting by those phones, and they never actually seemed like they were legitimately answering them. Because they'd always have like that big smile on their face. Oh, you're really going to donate $1,000? Like, it's just so overacting. answering the phones. And they're all ringing at once. And
Right. It's just, yeah, you look at it like,
let's go to the big board and see how much money we've got.
Right. looking a little suspicious there.
Yeah. You got some other strong
other
positives
things
or positives
that I like. I myself I like Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
As he's sort of an amalgamation of a couple different things. He's got this almost otherworldliness to him
Mm-hmm.
that pings off of the whole bits with Vicious.
Yep.
And then he's got a lot of Spike's characteristics
Mm-hmm.
in him as well. And but they're spun a little bit more darkly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's more of the just how bad you could be if you're really just that apathetic towards everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I like him. I like his look as well, and that the fight at the end between him and Spike is just, I really enjoy it.
It makes me wonder if the backstory of Vicious and stuff was not somehow derived into Vincent, like to some degree or somehow, just because Vicious is fine, but we don't get a lot of information on the character as a whole. But Vincent is in an hour and a half, hour 50-minute movie. I feel is even way more fleshed out than Vicious is over the entire series, and a lot more intriguing in a lot of ways.
Well, I don't know. I think that was. I think that was the intention to kind of keep Vicious like in the peripheral, as opposed to Vincent, who's now spotlighted. Man, that's probably what makes that a bit different. I don't know.
You're right. Like I do think that is the case, but that makes Vincent a lot more interesting as a whole for me. And I think that whole backdrop of what happens at the end with Vicious is quite underwhelming in a lot of regards as a result. The actual confrontation is significantly shorter than this. And I know it's probably playing into the character that he's like hiding behind all the henchmen and so that sort of thing. But the climax here is a lot more exciting and a lot more, I don't know, you feel like the stakes are a little bit different and in a way higher, obviously, because there's more innocent people potentially being harmed by this. In the immediacy, I guess if say Vicious was, successful and ran the syndicate, yeah, like long term, a lot of people would have been hurt. But he's very much a dark reflection of Spike. Well, yeah, well they could be if he starts like
the same degree
cracking down on towns and stuff or whatever, right? Like I guess we wouldn't know the scope, but yeah, I'd like that it's a dark. This is a weird placement too, because I was just thinking back. They had the weird Andy Cowboy character who's kind of this total goofball version of Spike, like a lighthearted version of Spike essentially, and then you get this character who's kind of that opposite end. So you get like that light and dark, and the placement of the movie and that episode are quite close. So yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that.
Yeah, no, it's I know, not that it always has to be, but I know that is a lean when it comes to really great villain is the dark, the darker intentions of what the hero could have been, sort of thing. Yeah,
it certainly happens a lot.
It happens a lot. The the I think because it is he he probably gets about as much, if not maybe even a little bit more screen time than Vicious.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I think he probably overall still gets slightly less, which is kind of crazy. But
Hmm. But I mean, yeah, it's it's the distillation of it, right? As opposed to here it is in a span of 2 hours versus the span of 26 episodes.
mm-hmm.
Or if you wanted to chop it down, put it together in 5 episodes, which
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit less time than the 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
But as a scope of a movie and trying to encapsulate that in for sure, in a final stretch, right? Like you're not intending on having a second movie or sequels follow and so forth. It's not
right.
surprising that, as you said, they would want to spotlight a bit more to kind of give a bit more. You hear that complaint a lot, right? Where you watch a movie, oh, the villain was basically just like shoehorned in and
Mhm.
killed off with ease, kind of thing. So it's better that they did give a bit more to work with here for Vincent.
Right, because in a way, the movie, uh, how to put this, the main characters of the Bebop are almost the borderline side characters of the whole thing, if that makes any sense.
In the movie,
Yes.
sort of.
You get where I'm going? Because there, there's the thread of what's going on, but I think it's balance between Crew of Bebop, the kind of setting itself having its own personalities, and then the antagonists.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not necessarily larger than life. They're really intertwined with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It, so I don't know if I'm really making as much sense as I want to on that, but like, the, I mean, it's why you watch, of course, and they are in it a lot. It's not like they're not, but there are scenes where you've got the detectives, like the bioterrorist pair, and you got Elektra, and you've got um, the stuff with Vincent,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then everything else going on, and then you also have the Bebop crew. So um, there's a balance going on here, and I think that really, I, I don't know, I think it kind of helps it a bit. I like it because it's that way. If somebody is a bit newer to it, um, if there was too much of a focus, you'd kind of be like, okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know these characters that well. Um, and as people who do know this series well can be like, all right, I already know these characters very well. Um, it's cool to see all this other extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's one of the negatives for me in just the sense that it ends up pulling too hard and stretching things too far a little bit. But
yeah.
I can see
Okay.
that again for a film to balance a film as a sort of one shot.
Mm-hmm.
It does make sense to try to encompass all of those scopes as best as you can without
Mm-hmm.
leaning too hard into one versus the other, unless it's kind of like a character piece or whatever. But it's not.
Right.
So they have to really kind of showcase, what does the world sort of seem to be in the world building aspect of the films. So, or I
Mm-hmm.
guess, or for the series, and so I could see that being an important factor for building a movie.
Mm-hmm. So, I was gonna say, it seems like you don't have too many more positives there.
Um, not and it's not because I have like heavy negatives per se, but I will say I think it's probably pretty close to being, for me, arguably the best action crops up in the movie, like from a like hand-to-hand fight combat sequences. They're probably the best laid out. I can't think of too many in the series that feel like functional like this and feel like hard hitting and fluid and potentially a little bit. I mean, I don't know, it's animation, so it's not like completely realistic, but the fight moves look a little bit more. I don't know. There's just a bit more to them. Mm-hmm. Like all you have to do is watch the broom fight, and
yeah,
that's pretty much knocks out 90% of the main series fights. Like and that's only what, about 2.5 minutes, maybe.
It's not too lengthy, but it is really well done.
Mm-hmm. So, and then obviously the fight with Vincent, and it's like, well, really, the fight with Vicious is what, a minute? like it's so different than what we get here. Where it's kind of blow for blow, everything is matched, even. And yeah, we do get that with Vicious and Spike, right? But when you're doing sword and gun, it's a little bit different.
Right. A little bit more.
It's a little more intimate in the way it's
sudden lethality versus potentiality of sudden lethality with the punches. But yeah, that, and also you do get to see a nice distinct difference in style between Vincent and Spike, because Vincent's got that very how to put it, just very clean, concise strikes.
There's precision to his fighting, and Spike is fluid like water, like he says, but they're more like sharp strikes.
Yeah, and then you can where Vincent's very consistent in how he fights. Spike, it's like, this isn't working. We're gonna have to change the flow a little bit.
Right. Well, they both get injured right away.
Yeah.
They both take a gunshot.
But Vincent's on, cheating mode.
PCP.
PCP. Nano machine PCP.
That doesn't affect him as much. But I mean, physically, his body would slow down naturally still. But yes, it's not mentally, he's not feeling the pain.
Right.
But it's funny when you see the gunshot there. Like it's quite a quick transition, like as Vincent's coming down, and you see obviously like blood fly out. But at first I thought, oh, did Vincent only get shot? So Spike's got an advantage here. Like I just, maybe because I blinked or something.
You missed it, yeah.
Yeah. You see it after because he grabs him in the chest, like in the lower abdomen area or whatever. Yeah. So you see it then, but I was like, oh, and then Spike's not really showing it. Like as he's fighting, he's not showing any signs of fatigue or pain until like later into the fight.
Yeah, well, there's that little bit of a breather, and he's looking.
He's starting to lose his consciousness a little bit.
Yeah, well, right before that, when he's kind of sitting back, and he grabs a cigarette real quick.
Yep.
Like at that point, he looks like he's getting the hell beaten out of him.
At that point, yeah. But would that not also because of the released?
That hadn't been released yet.
Oh, okay.
Because that's when he dares him, and he's like, and stuff. He's like, I don't care, do it, whatever.
Well, was that the whole thing with the cigarette? Was it just like a defiance thing to flick it at him?
Yeah. He's just kind of.
Because I thought that was kind of interesting. Is that just kind of like a thing they wanted to put in to kind of look cool, or?
I think it was just a thing to look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Because, Spike can't handle people like him, and
right.
Obviously Vincent's gotten really under his skin.
Right.
Throwing things about dreams and all sorts of stuff back at him.
Right.
He's been found. So, Um, yeah. So is there anything else then for you in lights, or you want to shift over into more of the gray?
The dogfight is also I thought was really good, and
I
as a
like how
whole,
it's
I think that
spliced.
yeah, but I think as a whole, this poor series, like the dogfight stuff that happens in the series, might have the strongest animation out of any sequences in the entire series. Like I
Mm-hmm.
mean all of them, because they only pop up a handful of times.
Mm-hmm.
But as I kind of think back on them, I think, yeah, like all of them are really good. And I know like one of the main intentions of Bebop was it not to sell like the model ships at one point?
Yep. That
So
was they were like, hey,
make sure there's a lot
whatever,
of ample
just make
shots of the
something.
ships and stuff.
Make sure that there's got spaceships. And they're
Right.
like, sure, we got you, Chief.
And
Spaceships.
they just kind of shoehorn it in a little bit, basically, like
Here's the
right, like
bebop.
yeah, they don't really do it a lot, but when they do it well.
Right.
And here's no exception, right? Like it's a really fun sort of chase and shoot down scene. Um, I liked it. I just thought it was good. The music's really good in that sequence, and
Mm-hmm.
I know I can see where some people say, "Oh, it's too long," because this is about like what 4 or 5 minutes at least, like
It's
pretty straight.
fairly decent.
Yeah. No, when the whole movie's already of a longer length, I guess it just kind of flows. Excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
flows by really quick.
Yeah, no, it's a fairly lengthy bit compared to the others. I guess that's kind of the double-edged sword when it comes to dog fights. Is that I don't know. There's something about it that can. There's only so many ways you can really go about it without it looking way too absurd. I think.
Mm-hmm.
At least just from me.
Okay.
Well, it just I don't know. Like I like the dogfight, and that's not what I'm getting at. It's like you can only. I think there's like a threshold for it, right? For a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, where it's like, after a bit, it's just like, okay, we get it. Go
Mm-hmm.
on to the next thing. I think it's funny that Spike's getting chased, and he and the pursuers are shooting the hell out of the the side of the crater. That's, as far as I'm aware, is the thing that helps that part of Mars function.
Mm.
In a way, they're
Well,
just
they're shooting down
blasting
quite
it
a bit
off.
of stuff.
Oh yeah, they don't care.
There's no regard
Just,
for anything. They shoot down that massive tower,
hmm
uh, and then yeah, like the chase above the road. There's no regard for that, right? They like fly right in underneath in the beams, and like that could just crush the whole road and collapse it. But
hmm
yeah, but I personally, yeah, I think they did a good job with that, and just as a whole, because they don't overdo it, right? It's not like every episode has
hmm
to have some kind of a dogfight scene, and yeah, we still get like some chases. Think back to episode 2, right? Chasing, oh geez, I always want to call him
Kareem
Kareem. Yeah, yeah.
Abdul-Jabbar.
But chasing him down, right? And like it's car versus jet and stuff, right? So
hmm
yeah. We get a pretty similar scene though here, right? With Vincent with that police officer saying, you're in the factory, just shoots him. There's no
Yeah, it's a
kind of a
bit more
similar,
of a dark,
yeah,
not
doesn't,
nearly as chuckle worthy.
no, but kind of a similar sequence.
hmm yeah, similar, but very different tonally.
Yeah. The violence does get cranked up in the movie. There's a lot more
hmm
blood, a lot more death. Just a general
The,
violence is higher here.
that, yeah, that and it's very much noticeable from bystanders because that one
Mm,
dude, that's reading the newspaper on the monorail.
yeah. Oh yeah.
After he just he's just like, oh,
Yeah.
he
He's not coming home tonight.
he is, yeah, he's
Guy was just checking his stocks. Jeez, like
some
looking for a retirement plan.
well,
He got retired.
retirement paid. Yeah, he got retired, Blade Runner style. Uh,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, there's that, and just the the explosion with the jack-o'-lanterns and stuff. And that's not to say that there aren't more violent things, but especially compared to the TV show, there is a little bit more of a, not necessarily, I want to say focus, but a willingness to just show that sort of violence. And be like, yeah, this is going to happen sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I would say probably the strongest piece of violence maybe when Vicious takes over the syndicate, right? Like maybe that's possibly the most death and kind of violent death that we see.
That, or in Black Dog Serenade when Uday takes over and company take over the prison.
That's pretty bad too. Yeah,
it's a bit more violent. I would say this, other than like
we get a guy stabbed though here.
I was gonna say that's actually what I was gonna get at.
Like that's just like cold. Like that's some serious serial killer type stuff going on.
The with how like Lee Sampson as the nanomachines are cooking his brain to a soft goo. How his how he just face plants. It's like, oof,
right,
ouch.
Yeah, his face basically like crushes in.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, gracious.
Maybe they felt a little more free rein to do that, being a film.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain why there was a little bit more of a willingness to be as violent outside of, I mean, to be fair, even episode 1 has that violence, though you're seeing more so the aftermath, like at the end with Asimov, as well as when he first gets introduced, there is also that strong bit of violence. I think it's, I don't know. I think it's just that is the way of trying to color how the setting is. It is as much as we want to move forward with things. It's a very violent. Like violence has not been bled out of people.
It's still weird though to see someone say, like Faye, run out in the street, with a loaded gun, and people just go about their day, more or less. Like they're not fazed by the fact that she's chasing somebody down the street with a gun. They're just so tuned out to those situations.
Yeah, I mean, but if that's what's, I guess, regularly happening and stuff, that's just, I mean, people will inculcate themselves to whatever sort of insanity if they're around it for long enough, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I just say you want to shift into more of the gray.
Sure, yeah. Did you have anything else though for that?
For just good stuff,
yeah.
Or personally, I like, and I know I kind of mentioned it. I like the focusing a lot more on just the world around and being able to see some of these other things. The Arabic or the Arabian sort of influences at certain points was neat to see. I mean, we got a little bit of it there in what was it, episode 7? No, 8. Waltz for Venus. I think that's 8.
I think 7 was Heavy Metal Queen.
Yeah. I think. That or, yeah. Anyways, the and Waltz for Venus, we got a little bit of it, but it never really, there wasn't a ton more that we got to see. So here you can really see it in how Hmm, I don't know. It's how much more of a breathing world it is, even in smaller chunks.
Hmm.
Um, in the sense of like the size of it, right? Like being on Mars in these little, they're not domed, but these areas and stuff. Um,
Was it the Morocco Bazaar or Morocco Town or something he called it?
yeah, it's like the Moroccan street.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's, I don't know, I really liked it just showing that as well as, Modelo's, greeting everybody and seeing how, I don't know, it's really nice to see that because you don't really see that.
Not a lot of
Not
friendly people in this world.
well, not even just that, but I mean, you do see it more in like smaller towns and stuff. But yeah, in bigger cities and stuff, I imagine that with like if you stuck to just kind of ghettoized areas,
Mhm.
that there's a bit more of a potentiality of that, but there's also a lot more of a cold distance.
Mhm.
Um, so to see it being portrayed in a movie where it's like, oh hey, I know that guy. We're gonna talk for a moment and stuff. But it's just, I don't know. It's something I appreciate.
Mhm.
It's nice.
Yeah, okay.
Plus, it's also nice for Spike to actually do some beat work.
Right. Which we don't see very often.
Mm,
It's usually Jet.
right.
Well, and I guess to a degree Faye as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. The other two really get it, and it's not to say that Spike never does, but it's just kind of nice to see him get some. Can see him
Put some
do
of his
some work.
time in there.
Yeah.
He's often usually just the wild card, right? Nah, go take this
Right.
guy out. All right.
So the other good thing, of course, is the opening scene. I really like the opening scene.
Mhm.
So that's those are the other kind of couple things I'd add to it. It's just, uh, yeah.
Okay. That and you like
All right.
Faye's artistic skills?
That's true. That was really funny. I always just
That and they
in
don't
the
want to be
comment.
around her either when she talks about being near the explosion and
Mhm.
there's was it they mentioned about the virus on the newscast?
Right.
Start inching away from her.
Yeah. No, it's a nice little window into kind of, oh, there is some camaraderie here because there's a point
Mm.
at which Jet kind of, you can start to see it and see the problem with Jet's character in the sense of not like, um, not, I mean, it comes up in Shogi as well. Not necessarily that like written poorly or anything, but some things that he just has bad about him, where it's just like, oh, okay, I get, there's no sense of connection, so what does it matter? And then instead of kind of being proactive, he's just reactive, waiting for people to come to him.
Mm.
Um, and that's part of the big problem with him. You know.
He complained several times, right, about not being called, and not
Mm-hmm.
just in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to his whole was that eulogy on Ganymede? Is that the
Oh, Ganymede elegy.
Ganymede elegy? Sorry. Kind of similar, right? It is reflective of his personality in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So
So yeah, I guess middling stuff. So he just kind of
well,
rides
I
between
will
the
say, Jet definitely takes a back seat to the other
that he
characters here.
does.
Like he's not prominently shown here, and when he is, it feels very throwaway. Like the whole getting the planes ready. It just doesn't feel like he has much to do here.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, he gets that little bit with Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is kind of what I guess I was hinting towards with that, and I guess we're on two sides on it. I, there isn't really a lot that you need to show with Jet, especially at this point. Um, After the series, I don't think there's, I don't really think there's too much else to really explore with him. So unfortunately, he takes a little bit of um, a back seat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least he's front and center for that opening scene,
Yep.
in a way.
In a way.
Yeah. Even if he does get overshadowed by Spike, I like the little back and forth that they have. He's like, what is it? Disinformation needs to be told to enemy and ally alike or something. It's like, don't give me that silencing crap.
Yeah. I mean, his big moment is probably talking to Spike after he's recovered.
That's a bit more of an emotional thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has that. He has the scene after, like, later when he's complaining about not having a sense of camaraderie. They just come and go and whatnot.
And I guess
I think the
oddly, he
show
has the last line in the movie too.
No, Spike does.
Spike does?
Yeah, because it cycles back. Because Spike's saying the whole. I think it's him saying that about this is the, he always lived in dreams and everything. It kind of ties back into the opening lines.
Okay.
Like I think it's after the credits and stuff.
Mm.
Where he grabs the butterfly.
Okay.
So, but like Jet has some scenes. I guess it's just I get what you mean. He's not, but that's kind of Jet's character. Doesn't really, unless he's getting pushed to the front, he's not really wanting to stand out, I think. So, um, the whole bit with the nano machines, I would say, is a bit of a middling thing. Like, I'm not necessarily against it, and I don't think it's bad. I guess, for like how wanting to be, and this is just, I guess, unfair because this is 22 years after the fact. But even back then, I think we were kind of aware of the potentiality of nano machines. Yep. They're not the people be like, oh, nano machines, that seems like a bad idea. Stargate SG-1 did the whole thing there was a whole thing about those replicator creatures. I'm aware of these things. So I think it's a little weak in that regard. Plus how they are able to remedy it. Faye decides to do the whole thing with the weather station to be like, oh yeah, we're just I wanted it to rain, and then nothing ever really comes of that. It's a little flimsy.
I'd say the whole pharmaceutical aspect is kind of in that boat as well. And it's kind of in my negatives, and not to jump too much into that, but I think, yes, this is where parts where the story gets stretched thin. And there's a lot of just because. Moving on, like there's just, it feels like that happens a lot in the movie. Just, oh yeah, that's just the way it is. Now here's the next action sequence. And so, yeah, it feels a little flimsy, and I can see where you're coming from with that. That aspect is the layer on top of it all.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't want to, I guess, take too much out of the gray on that one. But
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Ed's kind of in the gray, I
The
think, for me here too.
okay.
No, not because, again, nothing particularly wrong with the character, just kind of similar to how Ed was used in the series, just kind of sparingly, right? Just, oh, conveniently really need to get some information from somewheres, Ed can just track it down, kind of thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I do like Ed's little bit with the Halloween and walking around and saying trick or treat and stuff like this is kind of a fun little moment, but then
Yeah.
as you get further into the movie, Ed just kind of disappears. You know, like doesn't really do a whole lot.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. If you felt that way with how on the negatives, or at least middling with Jet, I could definitely say there's not really much to try to move Ed
Mm-hmm.
forward in any sort of way.
Right.
Um, like, uh, yeah, really, this is the movie to move Spike's character forward to some degree, but then it's
Yeah.
like it tries to move it forward, but then I don't think it does a good job of trying to marry his attitudes after this.
Mm.
I would think. I don't know. To me, it's kind of like this is another instance of here you have it staring you in the face. Life is giving you yet another lesson.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Some people only get the one lesson. You've been given like three or four.
Well, he's adolescent. He lost his eye. Like
Well, yeah.
a pretty significant lesson.
That's, that is, yeah. He's been given a lot of lessons and he doesn't seem to want to learn. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Actually, that's a good point you make, though, and maybe that for me would go in the negatives as well. Is just they wanted to fill in some gap space there. And obviously, the placement of this episode was intentional in that piece for Spike.
mhm.
Why would he go back, to fight Vicious after Julia's death and this and that? And so it doesn't do yeah, they don't lean into it enough, I guess, to
Mhm.
really piece all that information together. But they certainly tried.
Mhm.
Like the whole when they're in the jail sequence, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind Electra's character. Like this is kind of where I would say she has that really cool fight scene with Spike.
Yep.
And she's doing stuff, but then once it hits the jail bit, and then after, she just really falls off
Yeah.
outside of murking Vincent. But
Hmm.
even then, it's kind of like, I mean, good on her to just only need to shoot him once.
Yeah.
Like, but in the same hand, it's like,
Hey, this movie's violent. I'm surprised she didn't shoot him like 6 times. It might as well.
I meant more in the sense of aim as
Oh,
opposed to.
yeah. But I'm surprised she didn't unload on the guy.
Yeah.
But obviously, with her emotional state and her connection and bond, she wasn't going to do that.
Mm.
But I agree with that. I think she kind of starts out strong, right? And then it kind of starts to shift and loses a lot of steam by that last point. And they go with
Yeah.
that really vague sort of, I don't know, like a old Western sort of ending for her and Spike in that moment there,
Hmm.
right? Not really having a closure and trying to leave it as open-ended, but it doesn't do enough to make you feel it's open-ended. Like she takes a breath
Hmm.
basically, right? And then so does basically Spike, and that's it. They don't really,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard to see like what would be the next. Yeah, in my brain, I can't even think of what would be next for Elektra.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, no, that is.
She goes in the gray area for me. I think I don't think she belongs in the
Hmm.
negative, but she's certainly not horrible.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say she's horrible. I think she, um, like you said, starts strong and then just kind of loses steam.
Hmm.
Probably, I'd say about. Like for me, it's you're pushing towards the jail bit.
Hmm.
Once hits the jail, I'm not too keen on that whole jail scene. I get that it's there to flesh out a bit with Spike and stuff, but it's just kind of like, really,
Yeah.
you're gonna open up to her like that whole thing with between those two is a negative, but I'll save that for
Okay.
until we get to the negative stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
know that's on my mind here too. So.
yeah. So, I don't dislike it, but I think it could have been better. Was showing the two detectives. I don't even remember their names because um, they're kind of more of just the faces of the ISSB, um, going around on a wild goose chase to figure out what's going on.
Mm.
Like, uh, their scenes aren't too lengthy, but in the same hand, you could, in a way, chop a good chunk of them,
Hmm.
and you wouldn't be missing much of anything. So,
You could chop just about all the ISSB stuff
right,
for the most part. I mean,
right. I think if anything, though, it's you have Bob saying how just corrupt and everything are. It is nice to at least have showing these two who aren't corrupt but are pretty much just hamstrung by what they're doing, because at one point they're pushed back, be like, oh, so all you're doing is just you're trying to figure stuff out. How about some results on stuff, guys?
yeah.
And whether that's due to incompetency or due to being uh, stymied by everybody they're trying to get information out of. Uh, you're seeing that they're not having
Yeah.
that much luck.
Yeah, I would kind of lean more into that, right? I think that corruptness of everyone around them makes their job
Mm-hmm.
that much harder.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a level of incompetence there, but I always kind of chalked it much more up to that bit of, well, yeah, they're not going to get any cooperation from these people because they'll get themselves caught.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So I think like that's probably why they're in there as much as they are.
yeah, but you could have done that in a single scene.
Yeah, but I think this by having them reoccurring, you see it on different elements and
Hmm.
different angles and different aspects of society.
Hmm.
So I, 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 I could see how we're just having one scene could work, but I think having those multiple scenes helps in that way. But it's not like it helps if that's really what their intentions were for that. But in the same hand, it's not in a viewing sense. It's not something like, yeah, this is why I'm watching this movie, is so I can just see how utterly corrupt society is,
Yeah.
and even the couple of people that are in the police force that are trying to do things, you know, eh, eh,
Mm.
eh.
Well, had this been a 22-minute episode, that, yeah, they would have got
Oh,
5 seconds of
yeah,
screen time. So,
if any,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, you would have got an offline of incompetent police can't, deal with the corrupt individuals from Jet or something.
right.
So I think I'm good for the Grace. I don't know if you have something left there for that middling.
Um, hmm. The I don't I would say the whole bit with um this will lead into bad. Lee Sampson.
Hmm.
Like I don't necessarily hate the character, but I hate the character. I just I like I it is less it's more of just a simmer. It used to be a little bit more fiery, but just something about him really rubs me the wrong way.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. There's just something. There's not enough for me to like hang my hat on, I guess.
Hmm.
Which is something that just bothers me.
Hmm.
So I don't know. There's just something off with that character that just annoys me to no end.
Is it the voice actor?
No, I
The
actually
voice
don't
actor's
mind the voice actor.
kind of grating, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just different, which is fine. Like it works for me just because that is at least a personality quirk for him. Um, it's just more of the content than the sound.
Okay.
Or it's just oh, don't it's a sparky dookie dooba 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 doo.
Yeah.
It's like okay, all right,
I
okay.
just kind of equated him as, a young guy who looking for something just like some kind of spice of life and getting caught up in the wrong thing and not ever once cluing into the fact that what he's doing is, you know, any like really negative consequences are going to come of his actions.
Mm.
And he's just kind of, yeah, well, I'm getting paid to do this, and it's something really, really out there. It's this big adventure. But
Well,
yeah,
I mean that's
I
like
don't like him necessarily, but I just kind of would chalk it up to that, I guess. And
yeah.
Spike
That's what I'm
taking
saying. It's like
on, or not, like Vincent taking over that naive. Why can't I talk? That he's so naive. Sorry.
mm, that's why I say it's kind of in the middle slash steering towards the dislike.
Hmm.
But I mean, you mentioned that there's also that other guy that Vincent pings on for the parade,
Mm.
and has somehow ensnared him into this. But with that guy, it's just like, oh, I'll have enough money, I'll be comfy, and I won't have to worry about anything anymore. And it's like, I mean, I imagine Vincent isn't like, hey, you want to help build a, you want to help me spread a doomsday nanomachine thing.
Build a death bomb.
Yeah, right. I don't think that really came across,
Mm-hmm.
the information sort of bit. But for somebody to be like, yeah, sure, I'm fine with this. Just give me a little bit of the money's there,
But you
and we're
never
good.
know. There's some wacky dudes out there.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's not like it's not within the realm of possibility, but there's just like, oh, that's his spiel. He just wants the money. I'm good. So, all right, yeah, we can move into the dislikes.
Well, it sounds like we probably both have that one. So I'll save that for you to tackle. I really dislike the wasted effort of Faye here again.
Mm-hmm.
It's really frustrating to watch Faye's character be as strong and as motivated and she's wasted several times throughout the series too, where it's just, oh, woe is me, I got caught again, damsel in distress. It's silly. It's so silly that this happens to her all the time. And I get it that she's headstrong and makes bad decisions at times and things like that. But she never gets to come out on top, basically. Like, she just doesn't. And it's really frustrating and annoying. And this was an opportunity at the end of the series to do something for her. And they blew it. They totally blew it.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got to get another sexualized scene here with her shirt being ripped open, basically. And it's like, no.
Mm.
I get it that she's supposed to be, she uses that to her advantage on people, but like she's just taken advantage of here. And it's kind of gross.
Mm. Yeah, she really doesn't get just the same beats and rhythms as like you said in the series, where it's like, you're just gonna, despite your best efforts,
Yeah,
you're really not gonna get anything.
no, she wasn't rescued per se by Spike here again, at least. Like she used some cunning to get out of there, kind of thing, but still.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's kind of just sort of left to her own devices.
Right. Yeah, I find that annoying that happens so often for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess she gets her win by, getting her memories back, but they're basically empty memories, right? There's nothing that she can use those memories truly for.
Mm-hmm.
She can't connect back to any of that stuff really. And yeah, it was just, I mean, I know she doesn't have her memories per se by this point yet, necessarily, I guess, or full memories, but
right.
I find that really too bad.
Well, I mean, that's also unfortunately part of the when you're doing a midquel / prequel to some degree, that's sort of problem you run into of you already have the progression of a character, and then all of a sudden you have to step back and sort of ping them back into a bit of behavior and stuff that they had already worked themselves out of.
Right.
And for her, she really doesn't get that opportunity. The things I do at least like with her in this is the bit we already kind of mentioned where she, is like, oh, okay, I'm now infected. I'm going to infect you guys, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not being a good artist. And the bit at the end where she's like, she actually asks Jet, "Do you want to go to the races and stuff?" So, and she does. I do like the little bit there when she confronts Lee, even though he gets away, kind of thing. Where she's like, "Oh, I like the real thing." Kind of, just the dialogue and as she delivers it and stuff, and then just shoots the screen.
Right. Her a little bit with Ed, like, kind of foreshadows what's going to come for the following episode as well.
Mm.
Little bit, right? Like there's a bit of a bond there that Faye never really wants to admit is there.
Mm-hmm.
And like just how mad she gets when Ed's gone. Stay there, okay, and then gone.
She's just a child.
Yeah.
Keep calm.
But Faye's always like the butt of the jokes, right? She doesn't really get to be part of the punchline other than being the punchline, which is a bit too bad. But yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, that's one for me.
The not gonna. Well, no, this is different. Never mind. I really didn't see the need for the near-death experience for Spike and the bit with Laughing Bull.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so just shoehorned in there.
It's so it really throws off what feels like the continuity of the film to some degree. Because it's like that happens, and then like how quickly of a turnaround is it before before Halloween?
I don't know, some magic pixie dust. I don't know what it is, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. How many times is this guy going to take a bullet or fall out of a window or make one fatal mistake essentially and not really pay the price for it?
He's just living in a dream he just can't wake up from.
Yep. You gotta know if you're really alive.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Electric
So,
King. Like, it sounds like Electric King, basically. What was it? Was her line something like that too? Was it not? What's the point of living if you can't feel alive or something? Remember that? Renard said that to her or something?
yeah,
Or vice versa, something like that. I don't know. It's basically like the same line here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not here, but in the final episode.
So, yeah, that whole bit, I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah,
It's kind
we're
of
gonna get it
interesting
again,
that he,
essentially.
right. It's kind of interesting that he had Jet talking to him in his dreams, but that also could be because Jet's there, kind of comforting him as he's recovering, sort of thing. So,
yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah, back to you.
The whole Spike Electra relationship is just, I don't buy it. I don't understand this whole, like, Spike never once has kind of shown romantic interest in any other female characters really until this point, except for Julia, obviously. And this whole, I want to date, I don't know. I don't know. What's the point of that? Like, it just doesn't, A, feel natural, B, was it supposed to be him joking, I guess? Like, I'm not sure, but it's not good dialogue, I didn't find. And like, their fight sequence and their little chase sequence and then to get on the monorail and stuff is all really fun and really good. Like, the whole monorail sequence is really good. But just, yeah, and then the camaraderie and, you know, her telling her story to him, which seemingly makes him tell. It feels like he's talking to us as a viewer rather than to her. And so, yeah, it doesn't feel like a good natural fit. And I think that's part of the reason why Elektra's character and story just peters out, basically, unfortunately. Like, she has this motivation that we don't know about, and then once we hear her sort of backstory and her connection, because I didn't remember the movie, and I thought, wait, is she like Vincent's sister or something? Is more where my brain was going, like when she's kind of refusing to pull the trigger on him and stuff, and then to just basically be like, oh, I just basically fell in love with somebody in a coma. It's like, well, that was the plot of a Steven Seagal movie, and that's terrible. So it's kind of a waste on the character because she comes out really strong. She comes out of the gate well. You can keep laughing. It's marked for death. It's that dumb movie where he has that terrible line with, "I'm going to take you to the bank, Senator, the blood bank."
The blood bank.
So
yeah, I know.
And he's got that fake beard.
Oh well, I don't think he was in a coma, but
some kind of comatose state or something, right? Where he was not functioning, basically. Not
no,
functioning like
well,
his
no. Here's the thing,
capacity.
though, is that they have the same tattoo. They were part of the same troop or outfit. I don't think it was during coma there, but that is.
Well, he was in a state that he was essentially like a zombie, though, was he not?
Yeah, but I think this would have
So
been
not like a
after
coma, but
the relationship. I think this would have been after the relationship.
yeah, I guess.
So, and that's where, like, why she's like, how does he not recognize me?
Mm-hmm.
So,
But I kind of had the
um,
impression he was not still all there. Like he was, like his human side was already sort of mute.
well, I think, yeah, from the way she puts it, he was just sort of outcast. Nobody ever really
Mm-hmm.
was there for him. And, but
She took up the arms or whatever
right.
right.
But yeah, I don't think that was, I think that was before the war on Titan and
Okay.
stuff. Um, doesn't matter though. Yeah, the whole relationship thing, it it irks me to no end because it's just like, really, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, nobody in the whole series. Then all of a sudden, oh, if Spike would have just hung around some military chicks or something, maybe he would have been like, oh, who's that Julia person? Like, it's just
Maybe, I don't know.
like, come on now, like, hey, yeah, like you could have cut that whole pseudo attraction and whatnot.
She
Um,
reciprocates none of it. Really, like to me, I don't really feel like she reciprocates anything, and that's where I'm like, I don't know if Spike's just doing this to tease her, or if he actually has like an inkling towards her, right? If he's kind of like, oh yeah, no, I'm actually got a level of attraction to her. She's
I
nothing
think
like
that's
the
why.
Julia character,
Right. Well, that's where it's like, why would he open up about this outside of because it's for the audience? But then if you
right?
wanted to do that, shift it to the borderline dead portions.
Right.
Extend that out a bit, or maybe not even extend it out, but pepper it in, like have that scene there, but then an additional scene shortly after, like put something else in there
Mm-hmm.
to give it, whatever, and then have him speaking that to Jet or something in dream, like
Mm-hmm.
in dream mode, what have you.
I'm surprised this wasn't like Julia's half sister or something that looked like her or something stupid. Oh, because we
But
sort
if
of
that
get
game
that
was so good,
when Faye's singing to him, right? And then he's like, you sing off
kinda,
key.
yeah,
Like we kind of get
right,
that dream state, but I'm surprised we didn't have a character that kind of looked like Julia or something that would kind of trigger him somehow.
yeah.
Then I might almost believe it to a slight degree, but
And you just know that Spike has a type.
well, I think he does have a type though. Like he doesn't even notice Faye, essentially.
Right.
Like just completely ignores her all the time. So even though she's quite a lot like him in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Maybe not so much on the
That's just
gambling piece, but
it's just the self-loathing bit there.
yeah.
It's yeah. So if you already hate yourself well enough,
Mm,
probably pretty hard to be attracted to somebody who has similar qualities.
I guess, but hers more so because of her unknowing of her past, where Spike's the other end of the spectrum, right? He's just like I'm
Mm.
running from it. But yeah, it's not it's too bad.
Yeah. No. Yeah. There's that whole. That's probably my least favorite thing from the whole movie is that
Mm,
that bit in the jail.
yeah,
Like just the back and forth, busting out. Um, whatever. I don't.
I thought it
I
was
like
fine.
where he's. Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's not too out there. I like it. He's like, hey, you have a smoke, and then soldier's like, hey, or guard or whatever is like, hey, can you have a cigarette? And it's like, permission denied.
It gets one anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just no. That needed reworked.
Yeah,
I feel pretty big.
yeah, that's a big
So
one.
yeah.
I will say the computer graphics are pretty poor as well. Like during that fight sequence with with Spike and Vincent, they
Mm,
really detract that. Just the animations like on top of it, sort of when
mm.
those fireworks and stuff going, it looks bad.
See, that didn't bother me.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
I thought it was pretty bad.
I don't
There,
know. Yeah, it didn't bother me.
hmm, I didn't like it there. It's not so bad in other parts of as the series as a whole. I don't find it's too like going through the gates and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, whatever, right? That's not too distracting.
Mm.
But yeah, I find it particularly in that fight sequence was kind of distracting. Some of the signs look kind of funky, like early in the movie too, like the hellish nightscape that you've spoken of before.
Gotta get those ads in somewhere now.
Yeah,
Come on.
surrender to Duff.
Instead of them being just directly injected to your eyeballs.
That could be a thing. I mean, wasn't that Asimov's thing? Just about the red eye or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So, but personally, I didn't think it looked good. I thought it really detracts from the quality of the animation.
Gotcha.
I have only one other thing. If you've got some more.
Let it roll, because I don't really have.
Okay, and I won't
Um,
spend too much time on it because I've already kind of brought it up. I just feel like there's a lot of disjointedness throughout the movie, and that it's stretched long for the sake of it
mhm.
being a movie. The whole like dream sequence with Spike, and oh yeah, we've got a shoehorn. Was it a Sitting Bull in there?
Laughing Bull.
Laughing Bull. Sorry, I think we said Sitting Bull a few
You
times
you
before.
yeah, you said it before.
Yeah, sorry. Um, and then just all of the parts of like, okay, Spike's now gonna go steal the cleaning crew truck, and I don't know, it feels like there's so many parts that are just drawn out that didn't need to be as long as they were. And
Mhm.
I did tell you, and honestly, yes, I was, for whatever reason, I was really tired when I watched the movie, and I got through a big chunk of it, and then I fell asleep, woke up in the last fight scene. So I rewound
Good
back.
time to wake up.
Well, and then rewound back. Well, it was like the end of that scene.
Okay.
And then, scrolled back from where I remember falling asleep so I could catch the rest of the movie after I must have dozed off for, well, at least an hour-ish, something like that. And then, but just as a whole, as I'm watching it, I'm just thinking, wow, like these sequences are just long. Like they just, you probably could have cut this down to 2 regular episodes. This could have been a two-parter type from the
Mm.
series kind of thing, rather than just, yeah, we're going to make sure you throw this in. And here's another sequence
Another
with Vincent.
tighter
And
hour and a half.
yeah, just like now here's the chase with Lee. And just, it just feels long, unfortunately for me. And I think that really brings the quality down in a lot of ways because if they could have trimmed a bunch, but I understand why, right? If you're doing a feature length film, you want to bring out as much content as possible. And it's not like the content's not related. It just feels like, yeah, they could have edited this to be a little bit more succinct in a lot of areas, like the whole
Mm.
pharmaceutical sequence and then going again, right? And when the head of the whatever the CEO or whatever he is, and he's just like, we know you now have the antibodies, and like just a lot
Mm.
of stuff that are just like, okay, how many times does Spike really need to go back to the Monaco Bazaar area? Like, just yeah, more and more and more being piled on, basically.
Mhm.
And not because like Jet didn't have enough scenes or any of that stuff, just long-winded, a lot of sequence.
Yeah. I think this has been one of those things where paring it down a little bit for an hour and a half, but then having this 2 hour thing be like the director's cut would probably
Yeah, I could see that.
work a bit better for it. Like I said, I honestly watched it, and the first hour I think breezes by,
Mm.
and then it starts to get a little bit wobbly in the second half.
Mm.
But uh, it did not bother me for the length of the film. So
Okay. I feel like they wanted to make sure they captured, those big elements that were throughout the 26 episode run. We got
mhm.
to get a dogfight in here. We got to get a chase sequence in here. We got to get a couple of bounties in here. Oh, don't forget, we've got to get a scene of Big Shot in here. But like, it felt like they wanted to make sure they captured all those essence pieces
Mhm.
and make sure they were in here. Plus, have a coherent story that can be drawn out for the full length of the runtime, and I just feel that's not necessary.
That is fair. Hmm. The I guess this is where, for me, having all of that stuff, all that drawn out stuff, all the extra stuff, is nice in that when I go back and watch the series, those other little odds and ends, how they interact with each other on a little bit more of a downtime sort of thing. Not to say that there wasn't enough of it in the series, but just a little bit extra there.
Mm.
That are just like how obnoxious the society they live in is. Um, uh, it, it'll always be just in the side of my brain, not necessarily the forefront or the back. Um, and just kind of be like, oh yeah, this is why the ISSP isn't doing anything. This is why, or why they'll conveniently be so strong-armed when it comes to something like Asimov, but
Mm-hmm.
then not seem to be able to, you know, be able to, find their ass with both hands with a lot of other things. When it's like, you guys come together real quick when it's something that's needle in the eye of a syndicate, but then you have all this other stuff going on and you couldn't be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
so that's not really, I guess, a good defense of it, but that's, I guess, why it, for at least myself, it doesn't really bother me with the 2 hours,
Okay.
the length of the film.
And I
So.
would chop it up if I had an opportunity.
So and like honestly, there are plenty of places to do that. So, um, yeah, time for you to make the sushi cut.
Yep. Sushi cut. Just make sure you cut out that poison sac of the fugu.
Right. No puffer fish. No puffer fish for me, thank you. I'm good. So I guess
Well,
we
I think
roll
that's it,
into
hey?
bounties. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big bounty.
So it is a big bounty. That's
Must be the
300
biggest.
million. Yeah, you got to go big, go home. Come on now.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah, I
don't
think
think any of
the
those zeros
the
were mistakenly
I was gonna say, I think
on the
the biggest
communicator?
one prior was the quote unquote 50 million, but but yeah, no, I kind of find it interesting too is that the one that Faye was doing at the beginning in searching for Lee, I think was 5, and then the one that 5 million that is, and then the one with Jet and Spike popping those guys
Hmm.
was 1.25 million. And
Yeah, I
so
thought he's a 1.5, I thought Jet said, but whatever. It's low.
well, he's low to the 300 million.
Well, yeah, compared to.
So, yeah. Um, do you want me to go first then, or?
Um, we never just guess
Whatever.
what was yeah, sure. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, I'll go first. All right. So, yeah, I enjoy it. I wouldn't. Uh, if I remember correctly, seeing some of the I guess scores and stuff, it's a bit middling, like 6, 7-ish, and then you get some of those people who are like, it's a nine
Yes,
or 10.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think it's been pretty close to like that 6-10, sorry, 6 to 7 mark typically.
hmm So, I myself, in scoring these things with the bounties, if it hits that amount, it's I've satisfied. It's usually kind of been my mindset. If I go beyond it, that means it's done. I really enjoy it. If it's below it, I enjoy this film. Is it the best thing? No. Is it the best Bebop thing? No. Um, but I do enjoy it. I would probably put this at about 325 million Woolongs for myself.
Yeah, okay, so just a smidge higher then.
Just yeah, like I enjoy it, but it's like when I was watching it this last time, I didn't like it wasn't like because there's been times where I've watched the movie or have been reluctant to watch the movie just because it is a lengthier thing. But this
Mm-hmm.
time around, when I was watching it, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm fine with this. This
No,
does not bother me.
fair
So,
enough.
how about yourself?
I will go with I'll go with a 200 million um, Oolong bounty.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I don't hate this or anything. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's okay. I'd much rather probably go watch 2, 3 episodes, even of perhaps the ones that I don't love. Like I'll just watch say 7 to 10, or just pick a handful out or whatever, and just kind of watch it through them and have a good
hmm
time. Whereas this, I'm like, I'd probably be less likely to, go gravitate towards this first if I have time on my hands. And again, there's some really great things here. Like I said, the animation quality is really good. It probably the best
hmm
looking the Bebop crew's ever been.
hmm
And I like the dogfight. The music's really good. So there are lots of good positives here. But I just find that length and the stretching out of the story, and um, then Vincent's a good villain. Like if I had to pick any choice between him or Vicious, I'd pick Vincent for sure. I just think he's got a lot more going for him, and you make the really good points as to why, but can't fault him for that, right? For being in the movie only.
hmm
So and like the monorail sequence is great, but just to kind of those other bits really drag it down, and Elektra just sort of starting so strong and then fading away basically by the end, and sort of trying to make sure that we get more insight into Spike because the big finale's coming up, and it's like, well, you kind of already squared that up with episodes 24, 25, 26. I don't know if you really needed this to kind of give us another little bit of backstory here, to try to justify his stupid choices.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. Like, there's really you really could have not. I guess it's nice to have gotten a bit more of a insight into Spike, um, especially since we don't get the mishmash blues.
Mm-hmm.
That's so a little less to draw from when it comes to the inner thoughts of the character and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
I guess before we wrap it up, were there any quotes from this that really stuck out to you? Or
Um, I'll be honest, like I didn't actually end up writing down any. I think there was the one like at the beginning where Spike says, I'm a bounty hunter, ma'am, right? It was decent.
I'm gonna
But
splat a grandma.
yeah. But yeah, not really. Like I didn't really catch anything, and partly because I was just trying to watch this for the entertainment piece more so than like jotting down a bunch of notes this time.
Okay.
So I didn't really grab any quotes, and not because there aren't any good ones. I just didn't end up grabbing any for myself. Did you have some?
Gotcha. Um, the one that Bob mentions about the back and forth that I mentioned earlier between Bob and Jet, where Bob's like, "Yeah, things changed since you've been gone," and blah 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 blah, and then Jet's like, "Yeah, it hasn't changed at all. That's why I quit."
Yeah.
No, I'm paraphrasing that, but
Didn't he say
back
that
and
when they
forth.
met in that episode just before this, though, too? Or is it the episode just after this where he said something similar when he met Bob? I thought there was a kind of similar exchange.
I think you might be thinking of Pierre LaFaux, I think.
Yeah, maybe it was that
To
one then.
some degree.
When they're on that bridge and they're having that conversation. It's.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Thad? With him and Thad?
Maybe it is Thad. Yeah, maybe it is Thad,
Smoking and he
not Bob.
throws off the. Yeah, well, because I think that context was more of like, oh, ISSB knows how to waste taxpayer money.
Right. Yeah, something like that. And if you came back, you'd be wasting the payroll or something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's just it, where it
So,
kind of reminded me of a similar conversation, though.
possibly. The other one I like a lot is the one that Spike is like, man shouldn't have to live on carbohydrates alone, complex or otherwise.
Yeah. Because he wants some
I like
protein.
that one. Right? That and the one by one kind of mentioned a little bit at the that Rashid character kind of mentions it about like, imagine the devil and he may show up, kind of bit where he's giving little hints to Spike about the problem with his little nano machine creation, but without outright saying it.
Right. Doesn't he have the line
So,
when they first meet too, something about I'm not married or something like, oh, you lived the good life or something.
it says something like that. He's like, because they're talking about these different beings, and it's like the one,
Right.
oh yeah, and then he's like, well, I'm not married, and he's like, oh yeah, he said something like, oh, so you live a happy life or something.
Yeah.
The other little bits is the trio towards the end.
The old guys.
Yeah.
World War II.
Yeah. I'm sick of the Bismarck.
That one goof, though, he's always trying to talk big, and the other two always just shoot him right down, right?
Right. So
I bowled a perfect game. No, you didn't. You. Always some stupid thing to say.
So, yeah. All right. Well, any last comments before we wrap up the Bebop arc?
Nope, I do not have any final comments.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it was enjoyable. I mean, we kind of zipped through this one as opposed to the Bond one. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't have anything to say. Go watch it if you haven't. I mean, yeah. And if you have seen it, especially this movie, let us know your thoughts. I am curious to know, especially about this one, because it's not that I think people dislike it. I think they're a little bit more ambivalent to where it's like, ah.
It exists.
It exists, and it's not egregious.
No, yeah, it's not.
So at least I think that's, but there are some people who are just like, oh, it's amazing, or so. I would be curious to know what people think of it and what aspects they like and dislike, because there's a lot to draw from. So let us know. That's it for Sushi Bee and myself. Thanks for listening, and see you, Space Cowboy.